Check, check.
Hello.
I'm here.
Yes.
Everybody live?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome. Welcome to the International Juggling Association. I think this is our second annual panel on race and juggling, not to be confused with joggling, which is racing while juggling. We don't want any misconceptions about this thing. I'm joined by an esteemed panel. First, I'd like to shout out Paris for putting everything together, and I'd like to shout out all the tech people, Morgan, and I can't remember everybody's name because, we don't mention it. But this is going to be a good panel. We remind you, if you have any questions, send them over to put them in the chat, and we will look at them. We're going to talk a little bit first, and then we're going to answer some questions. And then also, please donate to the IJA. That's the International Jugglers Association. We're going to put up a little card. See right there, festival.juggle.org/donate. They could use the money. You know how jugglers are. Street performing doesn't always pay a lot of rent. You can't be like, thanks for letting me live here. Let me show you these back crosses I've been working on. Right? It'd be like, is this your paycheck? Hey, it's gone. So please help the jugglers and the magicians. I think there's a magician here. Remember, juggling is open source, magic is proprietary. Okay, we're gonna let it's true. It's true. That's how I explain it to geeks. We're gonna let the panelists introduce themselves, and then we're gonna get right into it. Who wants to go first? Sky King, everybody.
Why not? Yes, I was going to say, by the way it was explained to me is that juggling is magic without the deceit. Just saying, I didn't make it up.
It's the magic of sweat equity.
Exactly. It was like real tricks. It wasn't tricks. So
y'all are roasting.
That's very juggler centric.
I'm telling you, man, that's what I was told. I'm not a magician.
Jugglers and magicians are like the werewolves and vampires of the performance world.
Right, exactly. I mean, we're both outcasts, so it's fine.
Magical and arcane.
Right, exactly. Anyway,
tell us about yourself, Sky King.
Right, I'm from New York City. I am currently in Jacksonville, Florida, which is not where I live. I'm here visiting my daughter, and which has been wonderful. We haven't seen each other in a very long time. But I mean, many of you know me. As I said, I am a native New Yorker. I've been involved in juggling since I went to my first IJA Fest in 1994 in Burlington, which is where I met our moderator. Power to the people, baby. And and I've been involved in this in various aspects ever since. So.
All right. Who wants to go next? Amy?
Sure. Hi, my name is Amy Chen. I am living in upstate New York, but I've also lived in Chicago and New York City. I've been involved in juggling for about a decade, and I've been teaching youth circus for about 20 years. I have not been able to attend IJAs in the past several years because I teach camps during the summer. So I've taught with Circus Team, Chicago Youth Circus, Cirque du Monde in Hunts Point, South Bronx, Harlem, with the former Big Apple Circus in Brooklyn as well. I teach with Bindlestiff Family Circus in Hudson, New York, and I'm currently renovating a very big old building to turn into a performing arts creation center, a place for youth arts programming, community planning, and hopefully juggling festivals.
Woo! I'm very excited about that. Your resume is super impressive, by the way. Thank you very much. Eric, how about you?
Hi, I'm Eric Shibuya. I currently sit on the board of directors for the IJA. Actually, I'll be ending my term at the end of this festival. I'm professor of international studies at the Marine Corps University in Quantico, Virginia, where I live. I live in Virginia. And while I am mostly a juggler, I have spent the last year and a half or so, thank you for quarantine, learning cardistry. And that's been my latest thing. So I'm trying to bridge some of that gap. Can't believe that we're on a panel for race and prejudice. We started by roasting the magician. So I love that.
Magicians are not a protected class.
Right?
Fair enough, Ngayo. I'm with you.
we roast out of love here. We're not
Yeah,
roasting out.
I got something for y'all. Don't worry.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Randy Shine from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. I'm a full-time professional magician, been performing for over 17 years, cruise ships, corporate events, and mainly colleges and universities across the nation. I'm also one of the co-founders of the International Brotherhood of Magical Artists, which is a organization for magicians that are focusing on the preservation of the culture and recognizing past, present, and inspiring future magicians.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We like to inspire magicians. My son is actually a way better magician already than I will ever be, but I'm still a better juggler. But you know, he's a Pisces, so it's all proprietary. Let us start this panel with let's just do a thing. So last year we had a panel. Has anything changed? Whoa!
Okay. You know what? Let me jump into this. Oh my gosh. Okay. As the only magician here, and I like to say magicians and jugglers were cousins. That's all.
Yes.
We're cousins, okay, in the performance arts. I like to say that jugglers are failed magicians. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
Fair enough. We started it.
We started it. I told you I'm gonna get you. But all jokes aside, I understand and I know that since 2020, George Floyd was the straw that broke the camel's back, and I say that because there was things that were going on well before that, and it was like this mad rush. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do from various organizations and people? And there were podcasts, there were panel discussions and everything like that. And one of the things I've always said is that, is this performative social justice or not? Is it, hey, this is the hot topic. I want to make myself feel good. I want to show the world that I'm not one of those people, the bad guys. But in reality, nothing happens. It was just that snapshot. It was the hallelujah moment. It was the Tony Roberts conference. You go there, you feel good. Then when you come back home and you're back to doing what you normally do. And so I get a sense, at least from the magic community, it has been mostly performative social justice. So I've seen very little change. And the pushback, well, change takes time. Okay.
It's been a year.
It's been a year. It's been a year. And I don't know if that's the same thing in the juggling community. I get a sense that it is. But I just wanted to put that out there because I truly believe, I know that there's been a lot of performative social justice to make themselves feel good. And to be a little bit crude, it was nothing but mental masturbation for them. That's all it was.
Let me jump in and follow that, because so I was on the board, obviously, and I helped direct last year's online festival. And we had that entire discussion over having a panel on race and juggling for like the first time. Mostly because, as everyone pointed out, there are not a lot of people of color at the live festival, right? They're just not, you couldn't get them together. If you did, it didn't feel like a safe space to have those talks. So I'll say this, right? The nice thing, if you will, about the pandemic was it allowed us to have this conversation because I could be home. I don't have to be feeling unsafe, surrounded by people who I normally feel safe with, but maybe not. And now we're here at the second point. So, I mean, we lost a board member. I say lost. Sophia Nothi was a board member last year. She chose not to run. She's been working in Minneapolis doing a lot of social justice projects. And I won't say we've done enough because I don't think we ever have. I don't know if I want to say it was just performative because I think we have moved a little bit forward. There are certainly Facebook groups that have become much more LGBTQ friendly, if not in your face friendly, if you will, about we're going to just put this out there. You can take it or leave it. We've done some of those things. I say we, I don't know if I can say it's the IJA. I think the juggling community has become a lot more open. And I think what I think will be really interesting is when we start going back to those conventions, those folks who were, to go with Rand's point, right? Those folks who were just performative or even worse online, we're going to remember. And I think the consequences of those folks, whether or not we welcome back in or hopefully not, I think that'll show us whether or not we move forward.
Mhm.
And I think at this very moment, we're having the second in a series of race and juggling conversations. So, if it was just performative, we wouldn't be here right now. And also, we're different voices and faces than were on the panel last year. So, bringing in new voices, showing it's not just the same group of people. It's not just a handful of people. Now there are twice as many of us, and I think that's important.
And that's a good move.
So what more? I mean, listen, I haven't been to a juggling convention since Reno. Maybe that was the closest one to my house. You guys hardly ever come over to the West Coast anymore. But I gotta say, I had to go to Vermont. I had to go to South Dakota. When was the last time the convention was in Atlanta or Chicago? And I understand these things are expensive, but I mean, if you're trying to outreach in the community, maybe let's not pick all the super white towns to throw the convention in. I mean, come to Sacramento. We're cheap as hell out here, and we're relatively diverse. And I'll help you set it up. I have no problem with that. So, I mean, when I look at the Instagram account, it's very, I wouldn't say it's America diverse, but it's internationally diverse. There's jugglers from Colombia and Mexico and China and Japan and everywhere. I mean, you don't see a lot of American Black people, but I don't know how many American Black people are submitting their juggling videos to the IJA Instagram account. I should probably do some more, I suppose, so you can see me do the Mills mess. Which is still my only trick, but what can be done? What are some concrete steps that the IJA should be taking to increase outreach and decrease visibility of the diversity in the juggling?
Well, I just want to real quick throw in is that Zayla Avant-Garde, who was the young lady who
and she's a fantastic juggler.
And she's an amazing juggler.
Oh my gosh!
I was definitely pushing her whole agenda when I heard about her. And of course, for those of you who don't know, she also just won the ship's spelling bee, the first African American to do so. So this is an exceptional kid. And obviously we want to encourage people like her.
And she's got a nice jump shot.
Yep, no lie. Yeah, WNBA aspirations.
Yeah.
I mean, and frankly, I'm pretty sure she'll make it.
Listen, and if that fails, she can just do the halftime shows.
Yep.
She'll be okay. She'll be okay. We gonna be all right.
Yeah.
I think to get on to that, I mean, the first thing I have to say, and I say this as a member of the board, right? Jugglers don't need the IJA. The IJA needs jugglers.
Here.
Thank you.
You can run festival. You can do it, and the IJA is yet to figure out. I say we have yet to figure out. A board member is yet to figure out how to be more than the convention. Ever since we lost the magazine, we've lost, I think, that physical outreach. The website just doesn't do it, and that's not because eJuggle and our website isn't great. There's some fantastic videos out there, but we can't compete with YouTube. You could just Google something on juggling. You can get Juggling Josh or Taylor Glenn or anybody else. They're not just, you can find some really awesome stuff on the IJA website. You just have to know that that's where it is. So it's hard for us to do that. And Guy, you made a great point about we don't go west. Our numbers, population dynamics just haven't really made that feasible for the IJA. But to go to Atlanta, right? The Atlanta Jugglers do one every year. Mm-hmm. And brother, that one's still pretty pale.
That's what I'm saying.
I gotta tell you.
That's true.
Sky King was pointing out a few days ago, jugglers in America of a diverse background, it's not that we have to create them. They're out there.
Yeah.
Something that I would say is we're looking for like, oh, you know, who are the top jugglers that we can wow with the videos. But I would say something that the IJA can do is reach out to educators in diverse cities, because they exist. Sky taught for many years. I've taught for many years. And that's where you're going to find a pool. That's where you'll find diverse pools of young jugglers. They're the ones who need to be inspired. They're the ones that you can build the community with, bring them in, bring their educators in. And then you're going to have a strong foundation in years to come.
We are trying to do that. I will say that, Amy. The YJA, the Youth Juggling Academy, the PIN program, we are trying to get that. We're making, I hope, better connections with circus schools. I don't know if we have yet, but that's certainly been projects that we have pushed the last 2 or 3 years.
Can we make props cheaper too? All right, sorry.
Hey, we got a vendor discount programming guy. We got a vendor discount program if you're a member. Absolutely, we do.
And it shouldn't just be circus schools, obviously, because the fact is that we went just to circus schools.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, Scott. Yeah. And I think my final point on that would actually be sort of like we a lot of those projects in terms of having to meet new people kind of got screwed up by a pandemic.
Yeah.
Fair
enough.
And something I'll say for me is that there are festivals that I haven't considered taking my students to, because I want to be, if we're going to be traveling, I want to take them to a space where they're going to see people like them. They're going to have role models. They're going to be well represented. They're going to feel comfortable. And that's something that I've been hesitant to think that the IJA as a festival can provide. But the more of these conversations we have, the more networking that happens. I know that's something that I would be more willing to bring my students into.
Right. You know what? I want to go loop back to something that Sky said. And I always forget who said this. I don't know if it was Maya Angelou or Nikki Giovanni or someone else. He said, you have to see it in order to be it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so with this young lady, Avant-Garde, she's the spotlight right now for the spelling bee, but now everyone is discovering. I'm not talking about the juggling community. I don't know if the juggling community knew about her. I don't know. But outside of the juggling community, like me, we're like, wow, this young lady, she's doing this. Wow. Oh my gosh. That is a platform of an African-American young lady who's doing something in your field. Now, not unless a major agency picked her up like CAA already, but is it possible? Maybe it's just possible, like, hey, do a feature article on her. And so, or the next convention that's live, have her there. If there's something virtual, just have her come in there and say hi, talk about how she got in there. Now you can see someone may see that and say, wow. They may not even see that through the juggling network. They just may hear about, oh, that's the spelling bee champion. Oh, let me go see what this is about. Now they see someone that looks like them. That may inspire them. That may plant a seed in them. And so take advantage of that. That's something that I know the magic community is lacking. There's no national, international role model who's been given that opportunity in order to be the face and inspire other African-American or people who are African-Americans who are interested in magic, or young people who are interested in magic. And so is there a way to, I'm not say use, but that young lady's talent and expose it to the
to showcase her talent?
That's what it is, to showcase her.
So the IJA was contacted after she won, asking about some of the videos that we have on our YouTube channel, and so from several news outlets. And so we've checked on permissions, and so some of those things are in fact going out. I will admit there was a whole debate over, it felt like we were exploiting a kid. I don't think we are. I think I don't, but there was a discussion about that. Okay. And so to go to Ren's point, yeah, we're trying anyway. People have reached out to us. We are sending some of that stuff back. We'll see if that matters. I'd love to see Zalia to at the next live convention, obviously. The 75th anniversary next year in Cedar Rapids.
That would
Cedar Rapids,
Cedar
Yeah.
Rapids.
Yeah.
well-known hotbed of diversity.
Hey,
Yes.
you know, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it is you want to Cedar Rapids.
I can't help you with that one, man. I can't help you with that one. It's like, we got these 5 years out. You know that.
Yeah.
Well,
I
the
have to
fact
say
is,
that
that
that's
ultimately we're everywhere. So
I mean,
we're there
yes.
too.
Yeah.
We're there too. We just might have to dig a little further to get to us. You know what I'm saying? So
It's true. It's true. There were more than 3 Black people in South Dakota when I went to the thing.
yeah, well, there you go.
I brought 2 of them with me. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
but
there were 3 of us in Vermont.
who's the out? There were 3 of us. Is there like a dedicated outreach coordinator in the IJA? Is there someone who's like, a diversity officer or whatnot?
Right now, anyway. I mean, all of the board members have projects that they've done, but obviously it's a volunteer position. Being an outreach coordinator or whatever that is requires a whole lot more of a larger network, I think, than any of us have. But all that said, it's a hell of an idea. And I will say this, the last board and the next board, Afton Benson, our treasurer, has set up a diversity expansion, inclusion sort of workshop that was supposed to happen this board, but I think we're going to go with the next board for that. So I think some of those initiatives are going to happen. I hope so anyway.
Well, we just have to push it a bit more. In my experience, anytime I go, well, in New York, certainly, if I go to any place, any playground, any park, anything, and I bust out some props and I start doing something, within minutes, there's going to be a group of diverse kids standing in front of me, checking it out, willing to learn. Every time. I mean, I don't have to do anything. I don't put out a sign. I don't have to make noise. I mean, nothing. It'd be me, even with just my headphones on. They're not even hearing the music, but they just see what I'm doing and they're going to come over and they want to know what it's about. And just the fact that I then engaged them, because they say, "Oh, what's that? How you do that? Where'd you learn that? How can I do that? Can I try?" Blah, blah. I mean, and within minutes, like I said, it happens on its own. I mean, it really doesn't take a lot to make it occur.
Can I ask Ryan a question based on that from Sky? Because I agree completely, right? You can show up at a park and you can gather a crowd. Is it harder to do that in Magic because of the secrecy? You can't just start busting out tricks and have people come over. I don't know.
It is. I mean, you walk the streets and you see someone, or you're at a restaurant and you're a magician, yeah, you do a trick. Oh, can you teach me one simple trick? And it's that thing. Are you really interested in learning, or you just want to know how it's done? So it's a little bit more difficult with Magic, in the Magic community. However, I do know that performing and teaching at camps, that there is a population that is really genuinely interested in Magic. Generally, and that's not to say that they're interested in becoming a full-time magician or a part-time magician, but they just have this childlike curiosity about it and want to explore it more than just how it's done. And so that's one of the ways that I try to do outreach personally, without being under the governance of an organization. It's just going out and just offering my services to camps in populations that look like me. And if they're able to work that out, we work it out. And hopefully I'm planting seeds in these young minds, meaning that I don't know if this is just something for those kids just to do for the summer. I don't know if it's going to be something that they see, forget about in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you're like, oh, they really get into it. They become a serious Magic enthusiast or hobbyist or actually a performing magician. But what I do know is that, much like juggling, the skills, the discipline, the dedication, the persistence, particularly with juggling, because you're going to fail a lot. And that's a lesson in itself that you're instilling in young people, that they're learning intuitively without someone speaking that to them. Oh, you try again, try again, try again. No, they get that, and that resonates to other aspects of their lives. That's the beauty of juggling. As from someone who's not a juggler, and as I said in a previous conversation, the first time I ever attempted to juggle was through Sky King.
Hey.
The very first time as a magician, and I was an adult at the time. That's it. I have I have a friend of mine who wanted to learn how to juggle. And he asked me, he said, is there any African-American jugglers? And now he's an artist by trade. He's a visual painter and a poet, well-known in the East Coast. And I had to refer him to Paris because that's the person I know. This is an African-American man. And so there is a desire and need out there. We just need to find it. And, Sky going out to the park and doing her things, boom. There's an instant I want to know. Me with my camps, I'm planting seeds. So I know that was long, but I hope that answered your question and a little bit more.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I, as same as with Amy, I started doing this. Hi, Amy. I started doing this by teaching. That's what drew me in. I was just juggling for myself. And one day, another juggler at Carmine, which was our local club, came to me and said, I need you to come with me to the school. And I was like, well, yeah, why? He said, because I'm teaching a group of kids and I think they really would benefit from seeing somebody that looks like them. And so if you would come along, with me just one day, just once, that would be awesome. And I did, and of course ended up being there for the next, 8 years or something. So, and which is also how I met Paris. And Paris was a Tumblr when I met him initially. So, I'm one of the people that, persuaded him that juggling actually was cool. The kids all had this impression of juggling being, oh, sorry, my son-in-law is walking in, so the dog's going crazy. Hey, Ron. So when the kids saw me, they just all lost it because I came in and did some juggling to, I think I used the James Brown song, it's a sort of something that was instantly accessible to them. And it gave it a very different aura, right away. Whereas, before, half of the other guys were juggling, they weren't even juggling to music at all. And music is very important to me and to these kids. And
that's another thing we could do is play better music at the conventions. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. It doesn't have to be all trap. I'm just saying.
No, it ain't that, but I've gotten in trouble for that as it is. Trust me. But I'm still gonna push my agenda as far as that goes. Music is everything, man. So yeah, it definitely was something that got through to these kids and resonated. And we ended up with jugglers. All of a sudden, we didn't really have very many jugglers, and suddenly we had like jugglers in the group, and it's continued since then. So again, all they have to do is see it, and it really pretty much takes care of itself.
I would say really quickly, I want to hear from Amy because I know we lost her for a second though.
Oh, yeah.
Is that at every convention, the IJA does do an outreach show with the Boys and Girls Club in the area, right? It's like a lot of folks generally don't know that. One of the problems, I think, is you can tell, right? If we're in a majority white population, Boys and Girls Club, also not going to be that diverse, right? So that kind of outreach sort of perpetuates itself and that sort of thing. And so that's one of the issues. But we do actually try and make increasingly more connections with the local population. So we're not just at a convention locked in a gym for a week and nobody sees the outside world.
Right.
But I'd say, especially in a pandemic year, I think it's a great year to get people to connect, because there haven't been local festivals. So just even getting tied in online. Yeah.
That is a brilliant idea. I have to share that with these magic organizations. When we have our conventions, there's going to be a public show. So why not invite a Boys and Girls Club or a community organization for free
Mhm.
just to come in and see that show as a way of outreach. That is brilliant. Thank you for that. Thank you. That's a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Also, Amy,
Go ahead.
first, welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you.
Secondly, I know you do a lot of teaching. You teach circus in Chicago and in New York and all these other things. So what are some tips or tricks? What are some ideas that maybe you could share with us that we could take back?
I've taught in a lot of classes where I am not representative of most of the students that I teach. So something that's really important to me is to be able to know, even if they're not in the classroom with them, to tell them about Sky or to tell them about Paris. I've been lucky to teach in a lot of programs with Paris. So he gets the students excited, and then I actually take cues from them as to how they want to continue their juggling. When I'm going into a class, if I don't match the demographic of my students, then I sort of enter as a guest saying I'd like to share something that I'm interested in, but really with the attitude too that I'm here to learn from them. So I'll just be like, I can't make it cool. I rely on the students to make it cool. So like, here are the basic skills, but what's the music that you want to use? What's the act you want to build? What's the story that you want to tell? The costuming that you want to use? Things like that. And another thing too I found in programs is that you don't always need the person with the greatest technical skill to connect with the students. So something that Bindlestiff Family Circus does a wonderful job is that when they go teach, they look for the youth leaders at the community centers where they go, or in the community that they teach in. So they'll teach them the basics. They're teens, young adults, they'll teach them the basics, and then they will teach the younger students the actual skill in the classroom. So we're kind of there to like oversee and like make sure if that the technical information is getting through correctly, but then the younger students are actually learning from their role models that they live with, that they've grown up with. So they don't, kids on the first day of Juggling Scarves don't need me to come in with clubs. They don't need me to come in with 5 balls. So a lot of it is empowering the people that they will relate to teach the skills.
Good
I
point.
have a question for everyone. What is the percentage breakdown? I know you probably don't have hard numbers of, particularly for you, Amy, in teaching, African Americans, Asians, and women. What is that? Is it more women? What is that like? That makeup, the percentage makeup?
I've been so with Bindlestiff Family Circus, I've been teaching in a program where most of the teachers are women, and I feel really lucky about that because I don't think that's very common. And I don't often see a lot of Asian teachers, and I don't often get to work with Asian students. So this week, the camp that I'm working in, I have two young Asian students, and that's really exciting for me. Like, we talk about how much students need older role models who look like them, but that's very exciting for me. And then I fell off, but I assume we're talking about why does representation matter? And it's interesting because in juggling, we have the stereotype that the people who juggle are white, male, and nerdy. But right now I'm teaching a beginning level camp. So I'm the only teacher that most of them have had. And today when we ask the kids, out of all the skills they've been working on this week, what do they want to perform? It's the girls who want to juggle.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, no, listen, when I first started juggling, it was even in San Francisco, it was a lot of dudes. It wasn't really until the flow ravers started showing up that the women in the baggy pants all kind of appeared at the same time. Which, some people were like, oh, those flow art guys are weird. I was like, shut up, they're bringing girls. Right? Shut up.
Although, if you see before the videos or the shows we've been showing some historical photographs. And last night they showed the photographs of Atlanta 1985 convention. And I have to admit, I saw a lot more women in those photos than I remember when I think about an IJA festival in the 1980s. It was still pretty damn white.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there was what, like air jazz back then, and Cindy Marvel's always been around, and a lot of those guys, but that's true too. I think also too that when you see a lot of the women at the juggling festivals are kind of performers as opposed to like juggling hobbyists, right? And a lot of times, you know, some dudes perform, some dudes just like to juggle when they're not coding or whatever, because you know the mathematicians kicked out a lot. But
I have another question because I'm clueless to something you said and everyone laughed except for me. What is this flow thing? This flow?
Oh, you know, like the ball manipulation and the stick twirling.
Oh, okay.
Right, the flow. It's called flow arts.
Flow arts.
They all flow.
Flow arts. Is there some type of thing between jugglers and flow artists like it is with magicians and cardistry?
I'm not.
There was some friction at first. There was definitely some friction at first.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, but you're not throwing anything in the air. How hard can that be?
It's been much better bridge. I mean, certainly. So Noel Yee, one of the pioneer contact staffers, used to be on the IJA board. He's responsible for me getting on the board. I hope he's watching because it is your fault, Noel. He's one of the founding members of the Flow Arts Institute. I write for them as well. So there are lots of flow festivals that have been bridging much of that gap. Certainly that tension is gone. It's a lot less than it used to be.
Well, when I started juggling, as I said, I kind of started juggling in a vacuum. I taught myself from the Klutz book. That's how I got into juggling. If I had not run into that book on that day in that Barnes and Noble, I wouldn't be doing it now. So, I mean, it literally was just a chance event. And, but my very first IJ, as I said, was Burlington. And I had met Alan from the Gizmo Guys, and he had won a previous IJA doing club swinging, which was like an old juggling art that had kind of fallen out of favor. And he brought it back by doing this routine, which I saw on video, and it absolutely floored me. And so I started teaching myself. And then, of course, I knew him. So every time I saw him, I said, "Oh, show me how to do this, show me how to do that." And I kind of got into it heavily, and I did spread it around as much as I could personally, because it was something that excited me. It was different. It was a different kind of manipulation. And again, it's the same thing as he said. People were like, "Oh, well, you're not throwing anything," but the intricacies of the kind of patterns and the movements you made, it was like the marriage of juggling and dance. For me in a lot of ways. And I said, I'm always been about the funk. So, you got the right music on, I'll try anything, And so it definitely appealed to me. And the fact is, in the beginning, like I said, Burlington was my first fest. The number of women was probably more there than it had been in some of the previous ones. But since then, the number of women have exploded. I mean, there's so many more women involved in juggling and various manipulations than there were. So, I mean, things are going in the right direction. We just got to do more about, like I said, getting more of us involved all the way around. But we're getting there,
I have to say, I was a little starstruck when I met Sky at my first festival. I started juggling in Chicago, and my friend Dharmesh, he taught me how to juggle. And when I was at Circus Team, it was not part of my reality at all that most of the people who juggle are white. I managed to be completely unaware of that. And then going from Chicago to New York City, I was juggling at Bryant Park Juggling Club. So at Bryant Park Juggling Club, again, it manages to completely escape my notice that the juggling community outside of those microcosms might not be as diverse. So when I decided to go to my first juggling festival, which was RIT, a friend of mine was like, juggling doesn't look at local festivals the way it does in Chicago. So kind of was preparing me for that. He was like, it might not be the easiest thing to be an Asian female. But even being told that, like even being given that heads up helped a lot. I went to the festival with my friend Robin, who's Asian American. So I didn't have to do the whole like arriving at the festival and like scanning the room for like the one other person, because I arrived there with them.
You brought them with you. Very nice.
Yeah, they brought me. And Sky was there. She was DJing, and actually getting ready for this, I was just realizing, I don't think that I had ever realized before that it's exhausting, like being one of the only few when you're at a, especially when you're at a space for days at a time. And I realized I have this tendency that when I just need some time to like let that go, that I gravitate towards Sky.
Everyone gravitates towards Sky.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about me. Blame my father.
What I'm supposed to be moderating, but you guys are doing such a good job, and I don't know really if I have. Is there something anybody else would want to say or would want to add? I don't see if we have any questions. I know we're not supposed to get the questions for another 15 minutes, but I don't see any questions coming in. So I'm just wondering, do you guys have any questions? Oh, here we go. Taylor wants to know, is there any advice for how we in places without Black, Indigenous, people of color jugglers can help spread interest to minorities in our communities without appropriating culture or being unrelatable? That's an easy question.
No. I'm joking.
Strangely enough, some advice that I would give, and I think I was talking about this before, is that if you're going into a community and you want to share something that you love doing, go in with that attitude that it is something that you love doing. And I'd say that it's okay to put it on the table that you are aware of the fact that you are not relatable, but that you'd like to share this thing that you like doing, and that you'd like to work with people to make it relatable, and that they'll be learning this skill from you, but that you'll be learning something about your art and something that you can bring to your skill as well. Then it's not like, here, I'm bringing this thing to you, take it or leave it. It's I'd like to do this exchange of ideas.
I'd also bring a friend, just like the Sky King method here. Bring a friend.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's a heck of an idea, and it's great consciousness on Sky's friend. They're like, I'm gonna bring you to get somebody that looks like them to help me out. That's a hell of an idea.
My rates are very reasonable if you want to fly me out to different places that you'd like to.
And guy, Imperial Man, no one looks like you, brother.
What
Hell, they don't. I've been to auditions in LA. I'm not nearly as individual as I think I am. I'm just in a room with a whole bunch of people who look exactly like me. Like, damn, how'd they find my tribe before I did? We're all trying to get on a toothpaste commercial.
One of the things that I would suggest that I know I've done in the magic community, not as an organization, but as a person, as of color, I use social media as a tool, particularly Instagram, and I look for African American magicians, African American magicians. And one of the beautiful things, I did this the other day on Instagram, we did an Instagram live. So it was 4 of us just jamming, talking about magic, and other people were watching us. And that stays, and that goes, and people can come back and watch that, but it's connecting with those individuals. And so if you live in an area where there are no biopic people, well, use social media, friend them. Say, hey, can we do a jam session on Zoom? Can we do a jam session on Instagram Live? Or can we do something on Facebook Live? That thing, even if it's just one-on-one, you're connecting through the art, and you're getting to know someone who does not look like you. One of the most interesting things where I hear people say on social media, oh, you know what? I'm not racist and everything. And, I think all people are, whatever. Then I scroll through their friends list and there's not one Black or Asian person on here. I'm like, how can you speak about something and you don't even connect, or not even someone on Facebook who's really not even your friend?
An acquaintance, a colleague.
It's probably not even that.
A dude you met in a diner once.
Exactly. So use social media. And that's one of the things that I push. I know some people are like, oh, I'm too old, or it's not the way it used to be, but it's a tool that we can use and use it to our advantage to connect with other people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beautiful thing about it. And so if you are in an area where there are not a lot of people that do not look like you, use social media to connect with those people and have a little jam session.
Well,
And I know you might feel a little awkward at first, like George Costanza trying to find black friends. But that's okay. That's okay. Just reach out, be yourself, have fun.
Yeah, and don't just. It's about the art. It's about juggling. Hey, man, I see that you're an artist. Hey, lady, I see that you're a juggler. I like your stuff that what you've been posting. You know, hey, we should do a jam session one day. Are you down? There you go. It's easy as that.
Boom,
Because
boom,
it's
boom.
about the art, but you're reaching out to people who don't look like you.
Right.
That makes sense. Joshua has a question for Eric. This is an easy question, Josh. Oh my God. What do you have in terms of cultural appropriation of Asian vaudeville artists and how it related to how it's related led to the Asian exclusion acts of the early 1900s? Wow. Why is there a dearth of this information in the IJA, and where's the dialogue and respect for the Asian diaspora?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really
that's
good
deep.
question.
Yeah. We're going to let Eric answer this.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Amy can play too, right? Amy, so I would say this, right? The formation of the IJA is 1947, right? It's 8 white guys. That's what it is, right? They're
Shout out Art Jennings, though. He's always
absolutely
been cool.
Art
That's
Jennings,
true.
Roger Della Hyde. No. I mean, these are they're masterful people. It's a break off of the International Brotherhood of Magicians, right? That's they form their own kind of thing just for juggling.
Didn't know that.
The ability or the development of the preservation of history, of juggling history. I'm going to shout out David Kane, Scott Kane, obviously, and then Tom Wall, our recent Excellence in Education winner, right? They're the ones who are building this all together. But the idea of preserving circus history and those sorts of things, that wasn't what the IJA was doing in the 1940s and 50s. It just wasn't. You actually had to be like, I think the IBM maybe, or Sam, the other magician group, you have to be recommended, or you have to audition, or at least you used to. I don't remember. I'll turn to Rand on that.
Actually, you're supposed to audition back in the day, and right now they'll take your money if you're interested.
All right. Well,
Which I think is some. I'm not going to even get on that.
okay. All right. That used to be the case for the IJA too. They used to be the case. It came from that same IBM tradition, right? And so those kinds of things kind of close off. But absolutely, this sort of the history of circus and racism is absolutely, I think, something that looks at the dearth of information in the IJA. It's not what the IJA was doing in the 50s and 40s, 50s, and 60s. I mean, I think probably the most prominent work might be Tom Wall's, or not, it's not his book. Modern Vaudeville Press published a book, Artists of Color, which is on people of color in the circus. It is, I get the plug, it is one of the prizes at the IJA raffle. So go take a look at the raffle.
Well done. And don't forget to donate to the IJA as well.
Is this a book that I could purchase?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Modern Vaudeville Press. I'll put this in the chat for you.
Put it in the chat. Throw in a link.
Yeah, I will.
You know, and on that, you don't see like you used to see in the 50s or 60s when you'd have the magician or the juggler named Some Ting Wong, and it's some white guy doing yellow face and making bad jokes, and this is the ancient Asian art of whatever. That hasn't really been a thing in a while. I don't think people are trying to bring it up.
Thankfully, yeah, we stopped doing that.
Right? I was going to bring that back all 2022, but I've changed my mind. So, I mean, do people even really want to talk about that? Like, I mean, I guess we can, but we're trying to move forward from that, and you don't really see that so much anymore,
The cultural appropriation question is a really good one, actually. I'll turn this to Amy too, I think, because I don't know. I'll let Sky and Ngayo and Ren talk about this. But for me and Amy, I think I'm gonna ask a question about Asian cultural appropriation. I think is interesting for us because I think, at least as an Asian American guy who grew up in Hawaii, speaks like this, right? It was like the whole, oh, you're not one of those Asians. You're not in the Chinese circus. You're not in that stuff. That sort of thing. So it's really weird for even me to pick up some of the sort of Japanese style juggling and then get into a discussion on appropriation. Like, I don't know how to answer that.
Are people trying to, I mean, I haven't been to a juggling convention in a while, but like, are people trying to appropriate the Asian style, or do you see non-Asian performers. I mean, it's tough because juggling is so open source, right? So if you're doing 3 Diablos or whatever, that doesn't really count as Asian style. It's just something you picked up from watching guys juggle.
I at least I don't. I certainly don't think.
I don't want to speak for everyone, but I don't consider that cultural appropriation.
I mean, listen, jugglers get mad at everybody all the time for stealing tricks, even though we just saw your whole, I almost cussed. It's hard not, oh my God, you built a giant triangle and you're bouncing balls in it. You know, no, I'm doing it different because I built a giant pentagon or whatever. I built an octagon. It's, you know, it's tough. It's tough when it is open source like that. So it's really all about style and delivery. But
when I think about appropriation, I don't think about necessarily technique or style. I think more about culture and identity. And I'll give you a couple examples in the magic world. Early African-American magicians from the past, way back, what some of them did was they were not accepted as being African-American magicians, Black magicians. Right. They weren't allowed to perform in certain places. And then you have the sundown towns. If they performed in another place, they had to get out. So what some of them did was disguise themselves and change their stage names. They came from India. They came from Asia.
Wow.
And so that kind of justified their kind of darker skin. Now,
put on a turban, speaking in a weird accent.
Now, the interesting thing about this is the fetishization, if I said that word correctly, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Of white people, of Asian people, through Black people.
Black people. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me. It is crazy. You're not going to accept me as a Black man, so I'm going to dress up like someone from one of the Asian countries. You're going to accept me there because you're seen exotic. You're from the Orient. We can accept all that mysticism and all that harmful language, that hateful language. There's I know people want to hate me when I say this. My opinion on this. In magic, and I always get the two confused. It's a famous magician named Ching-Ling Su.
Ching-Ling Su and Chung-Ling Fu, yeah.
Chung-Ling Fu.
Yep.
One was American.
Yep.
And he literally stole the act from the Asian. Literally stole the act from the Asian magician, and it affected that Asian magician's career. And he dressed the part, did the accent and everything, but karma came into play. Because when he did that bullet catch and he really died, that was karma. He came back and hit him. And he found out, he really wasn't Asian.
Yep.
He was a white man, American. And I'm like, you know what? Karma has a way of coming back and biting you in the behind. Now people say, Randy, that's cruel for you to say, but you stole this man's livelihood.
Yeah.
You literally stole this man's livelihood.
He Elvis this whole act, huh?
Right.
Columbus-y.
And the sad thing, but here's the sad thing about it. That guy is more famous than the guy he stole his act from.
Yep.
Today in modern history. So his name still lives on, and the only way you know about this other person is, and even I don't really know too much about him, is that he was the guy whose act was stolen by a white man.
Yeah. There's a biography of the deceiver. It's called The Masterful Deception. It's a fantastic book, but very little is on the actual Asian magician. Absolutely.
Right. And so cultural appropriation, that is a great example of that. You take something from another person's culture, identity, you demonize it. You demonize it first, you take it, and you profit off of it, and you become successful without giving any compensation,
TikTok,
or reference to the person who you literally stole it from. That's appropriation, as I defined it. Go ahead.
Rob has a question. He says, besides the IJA, What can the local fest do to better the situation? How can we draw everyone in and make them feel welcome? Kim and I try to make it open to all juggling, circus, arts, and magic, but we also want everyone to feel comfortable, share, and have fun. How do we open the door wider? Play better music, have better food. No, I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
This has got to be Rob Borowski, I'm gathering, to make the question. So I've been to their fest, I think, every year since they've had it. And yes, I mean, they've definitely tried to open it up to be more diverse. But again, they live in an area, you know, I've gone there, like I said, I think I've been there every year, except, you know, during the pandemic. And, you know, it's just one of those places where there aren't a ton of us around, in my experience, you know, so, you know, it's hard to do, you know, outreach when you're in a place where there's no one to reach out to, you know, sometimes. So that's kind of part of the situation there.
You know, but here's the thing too, like if you know, there are going to be a few people. I mean, sometimes it's hard to find the black area of town if you're in the middle of Montana or Wyoming or where, I don't know where this festival is. But also, if they do show up, reach out and keep up with them too. Like, hey man, let me get your email or let me get your Instagram and send a message or invite them over for jams and stuff when it's not just festival time, right? Remind them when we do a Jugglers Jam once a week or once a month over here, come through and say what's up and kick it. Maybe bring some homies and we could all do it like that. It doesn't just have to be a once a year thing, right? Outreach is every day.
Mhm.
Welcoming people from all walks of life is every day. That's just the walk you're supposed to walk.
Also, for New York City Juggle This, the last Juggle This, the festival director reached out to the program that I was teaching for, reached out to my students and I, and let, I think, like 10 of my students in without having to pay the fee. And also a really big thing was gave all the students tickets to the show, because my students would not have been able to pay for tickets. The organization that I was teaching for would not have been able to buy them tickets. But the important thing there too is that they were not like, hey, we're going to offer like 1 or 2 scholarships for the weekend for them to attend and come see the show. It was like 10 of them. So they came all together. They were comfortable. They were sort of able to arrive in a critical mass so that they're not like in a corner looking like how do I introduce myself? It's like they were the fun group that was going on. So people, I think we talked about this before, as opposed to people being like, hey, why don't you come join us? It's like, well, why don't you come join us? And there were, you know, so with 10 of my students there having a fun time with each other, that was enough that people were coming to join them, because they were the cool, they were the so I'd say if you're looking to do outreach, try to keep in mind, maybe not bringing your numbers up like 1 or 2 at a time, and then that goes into issues of tokenization too, but really like reach out to people like in communities and make sure that they can bring a community. I think that's how you're gonna shift culture faster.
Yes,
that's a very good way to put it. It's an excellent. I'll turn my video back on. It's an excellent way to put it. Are there other questions? Is there anything anyone wants to say? We have like 26 minutes left. I mean, I'm always for quitting early. Some people are like, you signed up for the whole 90 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Actually, there was a question that we talked about last week. I think Eric brought up, which was at festivals, what are things that we'd like people to stop asking?
I forgot about that. Yeah. So Amy, I brought that up. I'll answer my own question first, right? So one of the things that I want the community when I'm at a festival to sort of stop asking, and I'm not saying that it's happened a lot, but it has happened often enough that I think about it, right? Is I don't want to get asked. I don't think I need to get asked if I'm comfortable here. That's like a weird question to ask, right? One is I'm here, and for me, like the very asking of that question suggests something like maybe I shouldn't be comfortable. Maybe you think something that I should. So the notion that you have to ask me if I'm comfortable at a festival strikes me as the question and you shouldn't ask. And you maybe want to ask the question of like, what do you think would make people like me more comfortable?
More comfortable.
Right. Like, so don't ask me if I'm already comfortable. Just ask the larger question of what would be more. That would be the question I would say. I could use not being asked anymore.
Why would someone ask that question, not unless something was said or done that you feel would have made that person uncomfortable?
I've run into it, so I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that y'all have too.
Listen, I do a lot of hippie weed music fests in the middle of nowhere, and I if I had $1 for everyone who tried to explain to wear their Confederate flag tattoo on their arm, I would have more money. I'm like, you're the only one who knows what's in your heart, dog. I'm not on the losing side, so you can be yourself. It's just one of those things. I mean,
Puppies, hush.
Well, make me more comfortable. Better snacks, better music. That's that's always my advice. And good weed. But yeah.
I don't want to be a letdown, but there is one thing I'd like to talk about. I guess a question that I would like to not be asked.
Yeah.
Or something that I would like to have not happen. I have to say, like, experiencing blatant racism at festivals is something that I'm lucky enough, I'd say, to have not experienced. That said, I've been in situations where a performer told a racially inappropriate joke, and I was that made me uncomfortable, and I was very grateful for the fact that I have friends who did not let it go. They didn't make a huge scene out of it, but they said something to the performer. Now, unfortunately, it happened again at the next festival. So, at that point, it's like I'm hurting a little bit, and I was met with mixed responses, which is people being like, "No, it's absolutely not okay. You don't have to put up with it," but also people being like, "It was a joke. Have a sense of humor," or just keep the peace. Or I don't think that person is racist. Don't take it like that. I don't think they meant it that way. So I think one thing I would say is that if you would like minorities to feel comfortable at your festival, if somebody says that harm is occurring, believe them. We're gonna know better. We're gonna know better than you are. So believe them. And please don't let it go. And please don't ask us to tolerate it. I know that not everybody is ready to stand up to things like that, but if you're not gonna stand up for us, please don't ask us to stand down for ourselves.
I like that.
That's a good slogan.
That's a
good slogan.
And you know what? If you said it was said, it was addressed, and they said it again.
Yeah.
That's the problem right there.
Yeah.
Because you were told, and all right, the first time I didn't like it, but I may give you a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I told you it's offensive, even when I'm not around.
Doesn't make it okay.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make it okay, but now you said it again. Oh no, the gloves are off now. You just revealed yourself.
Yeah.
Who you really are. That's what you just did. And I agree with you, Amy. Some there may not be blatant racist remarks or comments or jokes, but then you have those microaggressions.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into magic? Now it's not what was said; it's how it was said. The tonality, like this is a magic convention with 1,000 people in here. I only see 2 Black people. You're the first person. How did you get into magic? Like, how did you come into our space that you have no?
It's almost a form of gatekeeping.
Exactly.
Like, who do you know here? Why are you at this party?
Exactly. I'll give you a guess. This wasn't at a magic convention. This was at another convention, and someone came up and touched my hair. Now, if you can't see my hair, it's in locks, but it's whatever. Touch my hair. And
without asking?
Without asking. And my gut reaction was this. I reached and started touching his hair and messing it up.
That's what I do too. And I'm kind of rough.
And he got upset about that. I was like, now you know how I feel.
Right. Yeah.
Now you know how I feel. I didn't tell you that. I didn't give you permission. You didn't even ask.
Right.
I'm not your doll. I'm not your
Yeah.
plaything. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna treat me like that, I'm gonna treat you like that.
Right.
All right.
Fair enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Paris, who we hope feels better soon, says he says Randy said he started the IABMA. What is it, and why did you feel it was necessary?
Okay, I'm one of the co-founders of the International Brotherhood of Magical Artists. It's an organization founded by 5 African American magicians. Now, we thought that there was a need to form this organization for several reasons. Honoring the past, recognizing the present, and inspiring the future magicians. That's what we wanted to do. Magicians that look like us. As I said previously, we will go into ask any African American magicians, and we will go to a convention, and you could count us on maybe 3 fingers. In performance, when we go out to perform, we hear this a lot. You're the first Black magician I've ever seen. Wow. There are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of us out there. Unfortunately, we haven't been given the opportunity to perform or to get on some of these major platforms. And so we decided to come together, the history part, because there's a lot of lost history about African American magicians, and some of it is being discovered now. Rory Rennick just published a book that just came out about Henry Box Brown, who was enslaved and ended up becoming a professional magician. The majority of Americans, or maybe people around the world, do not know the very first American-born magician was a man of color, of African descent. The very first American-born. Most people don't know about it. His name is Richard Potter. And then there's other African American magicians who contributed a lot to the magic community. Earl Presto Johnson is one of them. People are performing his stuff and not even crediting him, because Presto was the type of person who was just share his information, share the things that he developed, share the tricks that he done, his style and everything like that. And so in a way, that's another way of appropriation. You take and you don't honor or respect or give credit to. And so, and it's and I think part of it is like, oh, there's just some Black guy who's really good at that. Yeah, no one's really going to know who he is. So I could take it and I could use it. Okay. And so that's one of the reasons why we form this organization. And also as a networking, because your network is your net worth. And that opens up doors and opportunities. Paris is the very first juggler who's a member of the organization. And now he's one of the core members of the Heart and Soul of Magic, which is a show that features African-American magicians. That network of that. And that show is very important because to this day, there has not been a major magic tour where there was not one African-American magician. And there have been a lot of magic tours going on today. Actually, I just saw 2 of them just starting to back up for this year. Not one African-American magician, and they have rotating casts.
Huh.
And it's not like there's not anyone who's qualified for those spots, because there are. And so this is part of that organization. And also to bounce off ideas. Like Sky said, I'm coming up with this routine and I'm looking for the right song for it. I'm looking for something by, do you know a good hip hop song that we could clean it up and it would work? Oh, I know a hip hop group called OCD. Only someone who's really into hip hop would know who OCD is. And more than likely, it's going to be somebody who looks like me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you know what? I'm looking for something funky 70-ish and everything. Oh, you know what? You may want to try George Clinton.
Always.
Okay. Now for me, now for me, I'm into, in my show, I have elements of African culture. And I'd say, I need a nice contemporary song. It doesn't have to be contemporary, but I need a nice song with nice rhythm to set the mood for this particular trick. Someone would say Fela Kuti.
Right.
Now, if you're not familiar with Fela Kuti, you wouldn't know that, because that is an African Nigerian artist who died years ago. If you were in New York, that big play Fela, it was based off of his life.
His life, yeah.
Yeah.
So those types of things that's part of our culture, really nuanced, that I could talk to another African American magician and they can intuit exactly what I'm asking and what I'm looking for. That's the importance of having this group. It's not exclusive, it's not, but there's just some things, some ways of communicating, some ideas of
Cultural shorthand.
Yes, that will help each other, that we can help each other. And I'm sure it's like that with other communities too. I'm sure it is.
Have you tried some Lawrence Welk?
Not without the bubbles.
Bernard brings up a good question. He says, what about the involvement of people with disabilities? Are they represented well in the IJA? That's a good question. Thank you, Bernard, for bringing that up. We really appreciate that. Anybody?
Should I speak as a disabled person, actually?
Please do. I know Gary Karp used to show up at all the IJA festivals. He was a wheelchair user.
So, unfortunately,
and a damn good juggler and a great guitar player.
No, exactly. So, well, I mean, I'm somebody, my knee was broken literally 20 years ago. I've had like 15 surgeries on my leg. I've got constant issues with it. I don't make a big deal of it, what I'm about, but it does make it difficult for me in certain instances to get around. I walk with a cane most of the time these days, but I've also spent a lot of time on crutches and the like. I mean, I guess the one accommodation that I have certainly been willing to take advantage of has been, I'm often an audio person. I've done a lot of music for a lot of performers. So when they give me an opportunity to be able to sit up close where I can see, and I'm often sitting with another friend of mine who has a visual disability, and stuff. So, they can be accommodating. I think that most of the people are often like myself, that we don't advertise it. So I think often the people around you aren't always aware, and I think that that's a big part of it. And of course, because of the nature of what we do, it doesn't lend itself as well to, people. There was, when I started juggling, I don't remember the guy's name. I mean, there was a juggler who had a partial arm. He had an arm
Casey
and a
Damer and
and
Bill Jones. Two.
Okay.
Casey Damer and Bill Jones.
I beat Casey out for the People's Choice Award in 1994, and I still feel kind of bad about it.
Oh,
But it was a fair fight, so I don't feel that bad about it.
I hear that.
And he's probably making more money than me as a juggler right now than I ever have. So living well is the best revenge.
So you said there was a juggler who had a partial arm?
Yeah, he had a full arm, and then his other arm ended like at the elbow or just below the elbow.
And he's a monster. He's a hell of a juggler too. He's a beast.
Well, the fact is that, I mean, he would do, 5 objects with one hand.
Yeah.
So that potentially if he had 2 hands, he'd be juggling 10. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was like the guy was crazy.
I can't do 5 objects with 2 hands, and I've been juggling for 30 years.
Now, is or has there been a juggler with a vision impairment? Maybe not fully blind, but
Yes. Yes, there is currently one. I don't want to embarrass anybody or name
yes.
But there's somebody who actually is a long time and very good friend of mine, who definitely has some serious visual acuity issues. I mean, she is, I think, legally blind, actually. But she's been involved in juggling almost as long as me. I mean, I've known her for decades. And so, But
I mean, I wonder if the festivals make a point when they when you're making your flyers or doing your promo, you're like, this festival is open to people of all abilities and capabilities and whatnot. So someone who may be disabled might think juggling, there's no place for me there. But there's got to be a place. There's got to be something you can do, right? We could.
Well,
You can hold a stick and we can spin a ball on it. That's our kind of stuff.
Some of the flow arts, some of the contact, some of the things you don't actually have to throw and release is actually better entrees, perhaps. But yeah, to answer that question directly, we don't do enough to reach out to that population. We absolutely should.
Are we gonna set some goals so when we have this thing again in 2022, we can look back and be like, we've done this and we've done this and we've done this? Or are we just gonna get together next year and be like, oh well, we don't do enough. We can do more.
Well, let's not just talk about it. Like I said, let's actually, hopefully there will be some
You know what they say? Talk does not cook rice.
Yes. So, so that we can act upon things that we've now discussed. So,
Right.
there's a chance for us to progress.
And as long as those things are actionable and doable, so many times, we have these lawfully ideas and goals, which are important, but we forget that we have to crawl before we walk before we run, before we fly. And so, next year, hey, and I'm speaking from the magic community, if we get 2 things done, I'm like, okay, that's good. That's 2 steps forward. As long as we don't take 4 steps backwards.
Right.
Good point. Well, we'll write a list. Cindy says, could the IJA lend support to jugglers interested in teaching at local boys and girls clubs, say in like Oakland or Richmond or Atlanta or some places, inner city or whatnot? Does the IJA have, say you want to be like, I'd like to start a juggling program at this Boys and Girls Club or this YMCA or this after school thing? Can you go to the IJA and be like, hey, I need like 25 juggling balls, or I need little pamphlets, or I need something like this? Is there a program?
We can definitely do the pamphlets, and we can do the YJA pins. So the YJA Youth Achievement pins, right? If you juggle 3 balls for 6 sketches, you get a little pin. All of those pins, by the way, are free.
I want one
for kids. So here you go, Gaio. They're free for kids, but they're only $2 each for any adult. I have continued to earn these pins. Every $2 pin buys, I think, a dozen of these pins for the kids. How we, so we've been passing along. I went back and I qualified it's like 30 catches for 4 balls, right? It's the most. I've been juggling for years. I can do 4 balls. It's not that interesting, but I did it, got it on video so I could get this pin, send $2 in to get this pin so that we can make more of these pins. So yes, there are these things. We can do pamphlets. We can, if kids join the IJA, there's a youth membership. There are prop discounts, those kinds of things. So there are some of those kind of things. Go back to your biggest question. The IJA can't just send you 30 balls or 300 balls. We just don't have that.
They don't have the resources.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
However, if only the people who are watching donate to the IJA and help us to propel these things.
Program that goes overseas, but we should totally focus that onto local populations as well.
Well, that's been a big thing for me. I'm not against, I think it's wonderful that anywhere that we're doing it, it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. But I do think that we have neglected the domestic market because, we are right here and there are millions of us right here. And we do need to make a better effort to make connections with those people.
Amy, you had your hand up. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say if there are people in the audience who are interested in going to start a juggling program in a Boys and Girls Club, and you're looking for, how do I do that on a budget? I'm happy to put myself out there. Contact me because there are ways to make props for not much. So.
Sweet.
Sand and balloons, baby. It comes down to it.
Sand and balloons.
Yeah. You laugh, but it works.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing. Socks and rocks.
Yep.
We have about 5 minutes left. Does anyone want to make any closing statements? Great. Don't all talk at once. Anybody want to promote some shit? Follow me on Instagram, NGAIO420. I'll post a juggling video next week, I promise. Does the IJA have a TikTok?
That's a really good question.
Who wants to run the IJA TikTok? Volunteer.
Matan Pressberg and Aaron Stevens run our social media. I don't know if we have a TikTok. That's a really good question.
I do enjoy your Instagram. I'm not going to lie.
They do great work. Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, you said Instagram. What is it? Yours?
NGAIO
NGAIO
420.
420. I got you.
Boom,
I
got
got
you.
you.
NGAIO, NGAIO. Yeah.
And going back to what I said earlier, that's a good way using Instagram and social media to connect with jugglers, magicians, other variety of artists of color. You said what can you do? Friend them, follow them, start a conversation with them about juggling. And then that's how you start to build relationships, and that's how you bring people in, become more involved in the organization, in the juggling community, and that person will bring in someone else, and that person will bring in someone else, and so that's how that's a easy way of growing the community and inviting people of color into the community.
It will
Very easy
cascade.
way. Yes. And also everyone who's watching, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, that's my Instagram. That's all my social media, @Rand_magic, @Rand_magic.
Let me just say, I'm not going to leave Joshua hanging. I cut and paste your question on Asian cultural appropriation and the Exclusion Act. I mean, you asked a political science professor a question like that. I'm going to look. I think there's a whole lot of stuff. Rand was talking about the sort of exoticism with Asian magic, or using Asians as fetishes for African-American magicians and things. Right. I think there's some research here that needs to be done. We'll see if there's an article that comes out in next year or so. We'll see how that works.
Hey, trust me, brother's always going to figure out a way to get paid. You know, it was the same back then. It's the same now. So
I'll give you a call too, Ren. I want to talk about some of those magicians you were talking about.
Yes, and I'm about to purchase that book you mentioned.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a great book. Tom Wall does amazing research. All his stuff has been fantastic. I'm a big fan.
Just get some tickets for the raffle. You could win the whole set of his books.
I'll do that. Trust me. I once in a while I've gotten a little bit lucky on the raffle, so I'll give it a shot. But you know, and in either case, it'll still be a donation to the IJA, even though it's been a broke ass year for most of us. But that's okay.
Right. Well, hey, I think that's going to wrap it up. Don't forget to donate, festival.juggle.org/donate. We'd like to thank Eric and Amy and Rand and Sky and Morgan. And I don't know who's running the IJA page.
Elia is running it.
Elia
is fantastic. And I'd like to thank me.
Yes,
and,
thank you, Gaio.
And everybody who came to participate, and everybody who asked questions, and everybody who watched. And we hope that it was informative and entertaining and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next year, and we'll have some progress to report. And let's all save our money for Cedar Rapids.
I'm going to end up being there, I'm sure.
I'm going to go.
I think we've been there before. We were there before, weren't we?
Was it Quad Cities? Or is it back to Cedar Rapids?
We were
Cedar
there
Rapids
for
like
70th anniversary 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Every 5 years in Cedar Rapids. Next year in Israel. Thanks again, everybody.
Cedar Rapids, Rapid City, but you know,
yeah.
I've been to all weird cities because of IJA.
Listen, I never thought I'd be in Burlington. I'll tell you that for sure.
Hey, well, hey man, I went there on a fluke, you know. And like I said, if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have met you. So.
2024, truth or consequences, New Mexico. That's where we're gonna be. And then Rock Springs, Wyoming. All right.
All right, y'all. Peace out. It was
Take care, everybody.
I love seeing everybody.
All right.
It's awesome. All right.